Today, I want to walk you through my 7-step framework that's going to help you figure out whether or not you need to set up an LLC or any other type of business entity for your business. Ready? Let's do this. Whether you are someone who is maybe just trying to earn a little extra money on the side with a side hustle, or perhaps you are building a larger business that you hope will replace or maybe has already replaced your daytime job, then this video is going to be for you. Because most of you out there want to be legally protected. You want to make sure you're setting your business up for success because you know that if you don't do things correctly from the very beginning, you could be landing yourself in a lot of hot water later on. But you're not a lawyer. That's why you're watching videos from me. And you don't know what you don't know. In other words, you don't know whether or not you need an LLC. You don't know what goes into setting up an LLC. You don't know what the cost versus the benefits of setting up an LLC are. And that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. Hi, my name is Jim Hart. I'm an online business and trademark lawyer. I help everyday entrepreneurs and small businesses to get their legal house in order so that they don't need to worry about all these things, so that they can be set up for success from the very beginning. So whether that means setting up an LLC, registering your trademarks, or getting some contracts in order so that you're not taken advantage of, we can help you with those type of things. So today, what I really want to talk with you about is an LLC or maybe a corporation. LLC stands for Limited Liability Company. And this video is for those of you out there who are really trying to decide whether or not you need to set up an LLC for your business. So today I want to share with you 7 factors that you should be thinking about before you make that decision. But before we get to those factors, I want to talk about some of the drawbacks and the benefits of actually setting up a legal entity for your business. If you do not register a legal entity for your business, then you're operating as what's called a sole proprietor if it's just you, or a partnership if it's you and you have a business partner. I've done other videos about LLCs versus sole proprietorships, but for purposes of right now, I just want to kind of run through real quickly the main things that you need to be aware of when you're thinking about what an LLC is and how it can help you with your business. The first thing is going to be limited liability. An LLC is going to provide you with limited liability versus a sole proprietorship. There is no limited liability at all. All the debts of your business are also considered your personal debts. So if you get into trouble and somebody sues you and you're a sole proprietorship or even a partnership, then they can get at all of your assets, not just the assets of the business. Versus a limited liability company, you have that limited liability, which means you have this veil of protection that is going to protect your personal assets from the debts of your business, provided you run it correctly. The second main benefit to a limited liability company is the tax benefits that come along with that. Now, there are no direct tax benefits to running a limited liability company, but when your business is large enough and you're ready to set up an S election for your business, if that's what you decide to do, then there are some pretty big tax benefits that can come along with that. And you're not allowed to set up that S corporation if you're a sole proprietorship. You do have to have an LLC for that, or a corporation. Third, and this is kind of a wash between a limited liability company and a sole proprietorship, is that you have flexibility to run your business how you want. That's one of the nice benefits of a limited liability company versus I should say a corporation, is that you can run your business, you can create a contract with yourself called an operating agreement and set the rules for how you're going to run your business. Now, if you're operating as a sole proprietorship, you also have a lot of flexibility in how you're going to run your business because you're not regulated by any state agency. Now, that being said, there are some costs that are associated with an LLC or even a corporation. You're going to have your startup costs, which means your filing fees. You need to register with the state. You may need to hire a registered agent for your business. There's going to be annual reporting fees, potentially annual franchise taxes that you may need to pay, and then also publication fees in certain states. So these are all things that you need to be thinking about as we start to go through these factors that I want you to be aware of when deciding whether or not to set up an LLC. Okay, one more thing I want to get to before we go into these 7 factors that you need to be aware of, and that is, did you know that my law firm firm actually offers a monthly retainer plan for small businesses. That's right. So for a low monthly fee, you get access to have phone calls with me. You can schedule them in advance. You can schedule as many as you want. We don't limit you to that. You get access to an online community of other entrepreneurs that you can bounce ideas off of. You get access to contract reviews and other discounted legal services. You get access to a private client portal where you can ask me questions about your business and about what you're thinking about doing. You also get access to my Lock It Down Legal Toolkit, which I have had links to in the past on some of my videos. And then finally, you get access to 2 coaching calls per month where we're going to talk about various topics that might be germane to your business and what you're trying to do. I haven't done a very good job of marketing this service, but I want to let you know that our packages start at $95. I've been running this in this format for several years now. I just haven't told a whole lot of people about it. I figured I might as well take a minute and explain to you that that's something we offer. If you want, there's going to be a link down below to sign up and learn more about that if that's something you're interested in. All right, let's get back to the 7 factors. I need a quick sip of coffee. So today I'm going with my Cary, North Carolina mug. For those of you who don't know, that's where my law firm is based out of, Cary, North Carolina. Yeah, I'm back from Portugal, in case you're watching this and you haven't seen a video lately. I am back in the United States. Just feeling a little parched. Let's get back to the video. So before I get into these factors, I want to let you know, as a general rule, I think everybody should have an LLC if you're running a business. So you just have to understand I'm coming at you with that bias right there, is that I think it's really important that you set up an LLC for a variety of reasons. But I also realize that for a lot of you out there, it may not be the practical choice, especially as you're just getting started and money is tight. Let's talk about some of the things you need to be thinking about before you make this decision to set up an LLC. So when I'm talking to clients and prospective clients about their business, one of the first things I typically will ask them about is, do you have a business plan? Do you have a way to make money? And we talk about this a lot on the coaching calls that I referenced before with regard to my monthly retainer plans. This is something that is so important because I see so many people that are interested in getting an LLC set up, but they're not actually generating any money. They don't have a plan to generate any money. They don't even know what business they're going to be starting. They just think, well, I need an LLC, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. So that's factor number 1 that I'm going to throw at you is, do you have a business plan in place? Do you know how you're going to make money? Have you talked to clients or customers who are interested in buying what you have to sell? And by interested, I mean, have they pulled out their wallet and have they said, hey, I want to give you money for that? That is a great idea, because that's what you're looking for. And I wish I could claim credit to that idea right there, but I took a course by Ramit Sethi years ago, and that's one of the things that he talks about in his courses is you need to talk with your customers. You need to make sure that they are willing to literally open up their wallets and give you money. Because if they're not, then you maybe need to go back to the drawing board and figure out a new business idea. So that's number 1. Do you have a business idea? Do you know how you're going to make money? If so, let's talk about the second factor. And so another big question that I get from people when they are scheduling calls with me, again, this could be in the community that I have for my monthly subscribers, or just during prospective business calls when people are calling to kind of figure out what services we can offer them as a law firm. I talk to people about what state they live in. And I get all sorts of people who are interested in setting up, Wyoming corporations, Nevada corporations, Delaware corporations, or LLCs for privacy reasons, because they think that it's going to be, more business friendly, whatever that means. So there's all sorts of reasons why people might want to try and think that they need to set up their LLC in some other state. Honestly, the question you should be asking yourself is the state that I live in going to be a good state for me to set up that LLC? And what do I mean by that? Well, different states can cost different amounts, and it can be easier or more difficult to set up an LLC depending on the state you live in. And I do recommend for 99.999% of the people I speak with that they set up their LLC in the state they live in. There's no reason to be going to another state to do that, because you're just doubling the costs associated with your LLC. You're going to have to pay not only the cost to set up your LLC in that state, but you're also going to need to pay the costs associated with filing a foreign LLC in the state where you live, because that's technically where you're doing business is the state where you're living. You need to ask yourself, if you live in a state like California, or if you live in a state like Massachusetts or Texas or someplace like that where it is really expensive to set up and run an LLC. For example, in California, you've got an annual franchise tax of $800. In Massachusetts, you've got a filing fee of over $500 to set up your LLC. In states like New York, you're going to have to pay to have your LLC published before you can set up your LLC, and that's typically around $1,000 or $2,000. So if you live in one of those states, and there are other states where it's expensive too, Texas has a pretty high filing fee, you need to ask yourself, is this really necessary? Because there's other states like Kentucky or Missouri or other states where it is very inexpensive to set up an LLC, like $40, $50. And in those states, it's kind of a no-brainer. Yeah, you probably should just set up your LLC. But if you live in one of those states where it's a higher cost state to set up an LLC, then maybe you need to be thinking about it and having a conversation with an attorney, me, for example, about whether or not this makes sense for you. So that's the second factor. What state do you live in where you're going to be setting up your LLC? Next, I want to talk to my clients who are actually making money in their business, because there are those of you out there who don't have an LLC, but you actually do have a viable business. Not only are people opening your pocketbooks and giving you money, they're giving you a lot of money, and you're actually generating a lot of money for your business. And in these cases, the question really becomes, well, why haven't you set up an LLC yet? How long have you been operating this way? How much risk are you exposing yourself to by not setting up your LLC? So this is the third factor that you really need to be thinking about. Are you already generating money? Because if you already are generating money, if I'm saying that correctly, then maybe it's time to start thinking about a plan for how you're going to get that LLC set up and when you're going to get that LLC set up. Because there might be some strategic planning associated with this depending on the level of income that you are generating in your business. And the reason I say that is because once you set up that LLC, it's technically a separate legal entity from the business that you're already running. So you're talking about changing over your bank accounts. You're going to have to get a new EIN number. There's going to be separate tax filings if you're using QuickBooks or some other software for your bookkeeping. You're going to need to set up a new bookkeeping account with that new business once you set that up. And so there's really a lot. It can really be quite complicated if you've already got a business set up to set up that LLC. And so then we go to the next factor that I want to talk with you about. And so factor number 3 is, are you already making money? Because if you are, then let's talk about the next thing, which is how risky is your business? Are you selling edibles? By edibles, or I shouldn't say edibles. Edibles, it could be edibles, but are you selling maybe consumables? So anything that you put in your mouth or on your body. Anytime you've got something like that, it's a higher risk business because there's the risk that somebody could have an allergic reaction or choke or, God forbid something else happens because they consume one of your products. Are you giving professional advice of some kind that people could rely on and then get injured as a result? Are you selling things to kids? There's special requirements when you're selling things to children. Are you involved in some sort of hazardous chemicals? Maybe, a housekeeping business doesn't seem like that would be that big of a deal, but if you're dealing with hazardous chemicals and, something happens, then that could be a problem. Are you in construction where somebody could get injured or hurt while they're working for you? So all of these things are things to think about, and that's the next factor I want you to think about. Are you operating a hazardous business? If you are operating a hazardous business, then you're much more likely to need an LLC than if you're operating, say, a web design company. Not a whole lot of risk there to having that sort of company. So that's the fourth factor that I will give you is how hazardous is your business? Which leads us to the next factor, and the next question I ask people is, are you trying to protect your assets? Do you have asset protection concerns? So if you are out there and you've got, a large savings fund or investment accounts, or you've got lots of cars, or you've got a house, or you've got different things, and you've got an investment portfolio, a sizable investment portfolio, as many entrepreneurs do, then are asset protection concerns something you need to be worrying about? Because if they are, remember what we talked about at the beginning of the video, we're talking about limited liability company. A limited liability company, which means you are protecting your personal assets from the debts of your business. And so if that's a situation where you have a lot of assets that you want to protect, then you might be more likely to want to set up an LLC versus someone who's just getting started and doesn't have two pennies to rub together. Well, they may not be able to afford an LLC, and they might not need an LLC anyway. That's another factor that you want to consider is, do you have asset protection concerns? Are you looking to protect your assets from your business? Have you purchased insurance for your business, or do you plan on purchasing insurance for your business? Because a lot of times people will falsely set up an LLC thinking that is sufficient for what they need to do, and that's going to protect all their assets. Well, an LLC doesn't do anything if the LLC gets sued and the person that's suing your LLC, realize the LLC doesn't have assets, then they may make a motion or try to pierce that corporate veil and get at your personal assets anyway. So a lot of times, whether you have an LLC or not, it's smart to have insurance for your business. This is the next factor I would bring up is, can you insure your business with insurance such that you may not even need an LLC? Because it might not be worth it. So that is another factor to consider. So if you can insure your business with enough insurance such that you're not worried about asset protection concerns, then maybe you might not need an LLC. So that is another factor to think about is, can you insure your business? Now, I will say along those lines, there are some LLCs that it's very expensive to get insurance. Typically, this is, again, more of the hazardous types of LLCs. I've had clients come to me and say, do I need to get workers' comp for this? I've got one employee and workers' comp is going to be $9,000 a year. Should I be paying for that? Well, these are all factors that you need to be thinking about. And so that's the next thing is, can you insure your interests in the business in a way that maybe doesn't require an LLC? Or if you do have an LLC, do you need that insurance to make sure that your personal assets are protected? So that brings us to the last factor. And this is, again, this is more mental, I think, than legal. And it's just, I feel personally that having that separate business entity in place just, number one, makes you look more professional when you're going out into the world and trying to, portray yourself as a professional business. Having an LLC means you're legit. Number two, it's also one of those things where having that LLC in place, it kind of flips a switch with a lot of people. Before they had the LLC, it's like, oh, I'm just kind of doing this side hustle, or I'm just doing this business as a hobby type of thing. Once you set up that LLC and you've got some real skin in the game, now you might be thinking, well, I've actually got a legitimate business here. I need to make sure this business is run properly. And so you have to ask yourself, that's the last factor here is it going to make sense? Is it going to project? Are you going to be changed personally by having the LLC? Is it going to make you feel more professional? Because if it makes you feel more professional, you're going to appear more professional to other people. And do you believe that it's important to your professional image to have that LLC in place? Because if the answer to that is yes, then that bodes in favor of setting up an LLC. I've gone through a lot of different factors here, a lot of stuff in this video. This is probably a longer video than I meant to do, but I'm hoping that by now you've got a better understanding of what maybe it means to set up that LLC, and maybe you have a better understanding of whether or not you need to put that framework in place to get that LLC set up. And just keep in mind, setting up an LLC is easy. It only takes you a couple hours. I've got a link down below to a provider that we recommend so that you can set up that LLC if that's something you want to do. I'm going to do another video next week that's going to talk more about LLCs and taxes and all sorts of fun things. So make sure you check that out right over here. I'll see you in the next video. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.